Chilean constitution has been rejected in referendum on Sunday after 99.40% of the votes have already been counted. In Argentina, the Vice President Cristina Fernandez attorney denounces alleged manipulation of key evidence in the investigation into the assassination attempt. And two Russian foreign ministry officials were killed on Monday in an attack in the Afghan capital, Kabul. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. And now we begin. In Chile, the rejection option won the constitutional plebiscite with more than 60% of the votes. After the results were known, the president of Chile, Gabriel Boric, proposed a new constitutional schedule. According to data from the Electoral Service, with a projected participation of more than 85% of the electoral roll, the rejection option accumulates 61.87% of the votes, while the approval option accounts for 38.13% of the votes. More than 15.1 million Chileans were called to vote this Sunday to decide whether to approve the new constitution drafted by the Constitutional Convention or, on the contrary, to maintain the current Magna Carta, bequeathed by the military dictatorship of former President Augusto Pinochet. And after the final results of the referendum were known, Chile's President Gabriel Boric addressed the nation on a televised speech where he called on Chileans not to lose the opportunity to create the foundations of a new Chile.
A historical challenge, and we are aware that these challenges are never simple. We have the opportunity to create the foundations of a new Chile with the best of our history, in order to make our country stronger and our community.
In his intervention, Gabriel Boric asked Chileans, regardless of their vote, to get together and try to conceive a more comprehensive nation and to work together for the future of the nation.
You may rest assured that the path to a new constitution will never be an obstacle to provide an answer to your demands. Today, Chile has proved to be demanding, and it relies on democracy. We must be up to this mandate, and I call on the entire citizenship, regardless of your decision today, to face together and to construct together the future of our country.
Also in Chile, the coordinator of the campaign command of the I approve option, Vlado Mirosevic, pointed out that they accept the results shown by the people during the election day for the country's new constitution.
We humbly accept this result and its content. As a country, we deserve to have a new constitution that contains the majority feeling of the people of Chile. 2 years ago, we freely and sovereignly decided to start this path of a text written in democracy with a fully elected constitutional convention, equal and with a clear mandate from the citizenship. Today, after a historic day of participation, that we value very much because it strengthens our democracy, the citizens have decided to reject the text proposed by the Constitutional Convention, and as command of the approved, we recognize this result and we listen with humility to what the people of Chile has expressed.
Also, now we move on to other topics. In Argentina, Vice President Cristina Fernandez, lawyer, denounced alleged manipulation of key evidence in the investigation of magnitude attempt. Gregorio Dalbon, defense attorney for Cristina Fernandez, described as extremely serious the responsibility of the judge and the prosecutor in charge of the case, after learning that the cell phone seized from the attacker was received by the airport security police turned on in airplane mode, inside an open envelope and factory reset, showing that the chain of custody was violated. The equipment had been transferred to that instance because it had the necessary system to extract its data, despite being password protected. Dalbon stated that all those who touch the cell phone will be subject to legal action. Panama's social organizations denounced that the government has abandoned the dialogue table after 44 days of sessions and warned that they will return to the streets. The associations had warned that the executive was using palliative measures to mask the agreements reached in the talks facilitated by the Catholic Church. This Saturday, the topics to be discussed and their incorporation of new actors became the main points of the agenda. So far, the government has not complied with the regulation of prices of the 72 agreed products, and as warned by Saúl Méndez, General Secretary of the Single Union of Construction Workers, neither has it complied with the fuel prices. The leader has denounced that the government refuses to discuss the structural problems of the country. Ecuador's national police reported the seizure of firearms, sharp objects, and unauthorized items during a search of the Guayas penitentiary, which was shaken the day before by an inmate riot. The police detailed the discovery of at least 2 rifles, pistols, and thousands of large and medium caliber ammunition, as well as dozens of edged weapons and explosives in pavilions 3 and 4 of the prison, epicenter of the violent events that took place on Friday. The authorities emphasized that the threat was contained, and officials are taking control of the 2 penitentiary blocks. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. In Paraguay, during the first semester, the public ministry registered over 2,000 reports of child sexual abuse and at least 835 cases of mistreatment against children and teenagers. The prosecutor's office stated that a total of 2,031 victims were reported, with a higher incidence in the Central Department, where 824 complaints were received, following by Asunción with 216 and Alto Paraná with 201 cases. The entity also said that in a lesser extent, crimes such as rape, human trafficking, sexual abuse of persons under guardianship, child pornography, and pimping are also issues that concern the Paraguayan institutions. Every May 31st, Paraguay commemorates the National Day Against Child Mistreatment and Sexual Abuse in memory of one of the most heartfelt cases occurred 18 years ago. On Sunday, Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva, candidate of the Let's Go Together for Brazil coalition, met with women's movements at the Metal Workers Union in Sao Paulo. The event brought together the domestic workers union among other sectors within the framework of the campaign for presidential election in the nation. A recent report by the International Labour Organization on domestic work indicates that Brazil has around 6 million workers in this category, 90% of which are women. Based on this figure, the candidate recalled the social protection programs he implemented during his term in office and stated that in his next administration he will adjust the minimum wage above inflation and will facilitate renegotiating the debts of low-income families. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro began in Manizales, in the center of the country, regional talks for the construction of National Development Plan. The president made several announcements during the social dialogue, which was mostly attended by young people. After touring the city in the company of the Minister of Housing, Catalina Velasco, and the Director of the Administrative Department of the Presidency, Mauricio Liscano, the head of state attended a meeting with young people and communities, where he made important announcements about education, sustainability, peace, and the economic development. The event was used by the president to explain in detail the law of the National Development Plan. In Europe, authorities report that almost 1,000 migrants crossed the English Channel in the last 24 hours. According to the British Ministry of Defense, the migrants crossed the channel towards the United Kingdom using some 20 precariously constructed boats. They highlight that over 26,000 people have crossed the channel in 2022 and expect the number to rise to 60,000 people. Meanwhile, French authorities reported that some 190 people were rescued from the waters in 4 operations along the country's coasts on Saturday. The English Channel is used by migrants escaping from conflicts and economic situation created by Western powers in countries such as Iran, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, and Sudan in order to cross from Europe to the United Kingdom. The German government announced on Sunday the approval of a third relief package of more than 65 billion euros for consumers and businesses to cope with the impact of the inflation. The package is the largest of the 3 approved so far. This was confirmed by Chancellor Olaf Scholz after the meeting with his allied forces, where the measure was approved. The decision comes after the increase in the electricity prices, which last day reached record levels in the history of the country, while the cost of natural gas continues to rise. The package covers discounts on public transportation and the tax breaks for companies with high energy consumption. Two Russian foreign ministry officials were killed on Monday in an attack in the Afghan capital, Kabul. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has confirmed that the event took place in Darul Aman Street, in the vicinity of its diplomatic headquarters. An embassy official approached a line of citizens doing consular business when a man detonated an explosive device at the embassy gates. The attack killed the embassy's second secretary, Shah Mahmoud, and one of the employees of the security department. More than 15 Afghan nationals are estimated to have been injured or killed. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the explosion, which is the latest to strike the country in the year since the Taliban seized power. Now we move on to other topics. The Russian government warned that with the arrival of the winter, Western sanctions will lead to an imminent intensification of the energy crisis in the European Union. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov blames European politicians who impose sanctions against Moscow as the main culprits for the rise in energy bills. The Russian official also pointed out that Gazprom has remained a reliable supplier with a high reputation over the decades and said he was convinced of maintaining his commitment. These statements come after Gazprom announced that it had shut down the last operational turbine at the Portovaya compressor at the station due to an oil leak. And Telesur will dedicate its coverage of the Football World Cup Qatar 2022 to the figure of Diego Armando Maradona, who accompanied our crew in the last 2 World Cups. With the football star, we also toured our continent with the show The Sur de Viajero. We want Distribute to have its own music. With that in mind, we invite you to write or compose a song for Telesur's coverage of Qatar 2022 Football World Cup. It must be an original song, never recorded before or published in any media, and free of legal attachments. Record the song in any format, WAV, MP3, even with your cell phone. And send it as an attachment to comunicaciones@telesurtv.net with the following information: author's name, nationality, and the title of the song. The closing date of the call for entries is September 10th, 2022. A jury of prestigious musicians and composers from the region will select the winning piece. The prize will be the recording of the song, a video clip, and the wide diffusion of the work. 1 week after the closing of the call, TeleSur will announce the results. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The world surpassed 600 million infections and over 6.4 million deaths due to COVID-19 pandemic. According to data from the World Health Organization, the WHO, the United States continues to lead the list of the most affected countries with over 93,300,000 infections and more than 1 million fatalities due to the disease, followed by India with over 44,400,000 cases of infection and nearly 528,000 fatalities, while Brazil recorded over 34 million infections and almost 683,000 deaths due to the coronavirus, exceeding India in the mortality rate due to the virus. Now we move on to other topics. Hundreds of flights have been grounded and more than 200 people evacuated in South Korea as Typhoon Hinnamnor approached the country. South Korea's weather agency says the country will start to feel the full force of Hinnamnor by early Tuesday. Authorities raised concern about potentially huge damage from flooding, landslides, and tidal waves, as the weather phenomenon brings heavy rains and winds of up to 180 miles per hour. President Yoon Suk-yeol, during an emergency meeting on Monday, urged maximum effort to prevent casualties. Also on Monday, China's National Observatory renewed a yellow alert for Hinnamnor, the 11th typhoon of the year, as it is moving closer to eastern China. Millions of people in Pakistan, are in need of aid as the flash floods triggered by heavy monsoon rains had swept away their houses and inundated farmlands, turning their world upside down all of a sudden. According to the National Disaster Management Authority, the recent floods in Pakistan have already affected more than 33 million people, killing more than 1,200, including 400 children, and injuring over 6,000 people since mid-June. After the devastating floods, humanitarian assistance from various countries, including China, started to flow into Pakistan. The United Nations and Pakistan made an appeal this week for $160 million in emergency funding to help millions affected in the South Asian country. Many non-governmental organizations, charity institutions, philanthropists, and individuals are collecting and redistributing required items in response to the overwhelming negative impact of the floodings. Sudanese police reported on Sunday at least 112 people dead and tens of thousands of homes damaged or destroyed by torrential rains that have lashed the country since May. The government declared a state of emergency in August because of heavy flooding in 6 states of the country, which is also suffering a severe economic crisis. According to the United Nations, 1 in 3 Sudanese needs humanitarian aid. Inflation is approaching 200% every month. The currency is in free fall, and since the coup led by Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan on 25 October 2021, the price of bread has risen tenfold. Citing government data, the UN said that floods had affected 226,000 people across Sudan. On Monday, Kenya's Supreme Court dismissed the various petitions appealing the results of the August 9th election, which called the victory from William Ruto, incumbent Vice President of Kenya. By this ruling also, the court upheld the election of Mr. Ruto as the next president of Kenya. The ruling came 3 days after arguments were heard from lawyers representing the two main candidates. There were 7 petitions with regards to the presidential election, which the court consolidated into one petition as they all had the same purpose. The election, which was held on 9th August, saw Mr. Ruto emerge the winner with 50.49% of the total votes cast, to defeat his closest challenger, ex-Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who polled 48.85% of votes cast. Mr. Ruto also achieved the minimum 25% of the votes in 39 counties. Both contenders said they will accept the ruling.
This is a unanimous decision of the court, and we make the following orders. 1. The presidential election petition number E005 of 2022 as consolidated with the presidential election petition numbers E001, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8 of 2022 are hereby dismissed. As a consequence, we declare the election of the first respondent as president-elect to be varied under Article 143 of the Constitution.
And China on Monday accused the United States of launching tens of thousands of cyber attacks against the Asian giant, stealing sensitive data, including from a public research university. At a press briefing in Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Min said the U.S. should immediately stop cyber attacks and cyber theft and attacks on other countries, but play a constructive role in safeguarding cybersecurity. According to an investigation report released by China's National Computer Virus Emergency Response Center, the Office of Tailored Access Operations under the National Security Agency of the United States has carried out vicious cyber attacks against China for years, including the email system of the Northwestern Polytechnical University in Xi'an City. Telesur English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order it from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on the screen are in place since July 1st. Quite soon, further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now, more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other farther away nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. And now you can also follow us on TikTok account at Telesur English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.